All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for Armchair Travel to Bhutan. I'm probably mispronouncing this. We're gonna find out how many words I can mispronounce here. So Bhutan is a unique and an isolated Himalayan kingdom between Tibet and India. It is steeped in Buddhist folklore and mythology, and it's known for its gross national happiness, its distinct culture, and magnificent scenery. It's the destination of a lifetime. And tonight's presentation is led by Jack Holmes, who's a travel photographer and owner of Images from Near and Far, based out of Western Avenue Studios in Lowell. A retired high school teacher, Jack previously served as the president of the Greater Lynn Photographic Association, as well as the gallery manager of the Loading Dock Gallery in Lowell. So I again want to thank the Friends of the Tewksbury Library for sponsoring, and all 170 of us or so who are watching live. Let's give a big virtual round of applause to Jack for joining us here tonight. And Jack, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robert, and thanks to the Friends of the Tewksbury Library for sponsoring us. And thank you folks all for tuning in and traveling with me to Bhutan. Drukyol, land of the Thunder Dragon. Bhutan is a small, remote eastern Himalayan kingdom bordering India and China. How do you get there? Well, a direct route would be by plane through India. But when we went there, we flew from Boston over the Arctic and then down to Hong Kong. We then stayed there for a little bit, changed planes, went off to Bangkok. That took about 22 hours to do that. And we chose to spend a couple of days in Bangkok to meet some fellow travelers and shake some jet lag and do some touring in Bangkok. The flight to Paro had a stop in Calcutta, India, to let passengers off and on. And then we flew up into Paro. That leg was about 3 hours. So as you can see, it's a little over 24 hours that way. Bhutan, size of 3 southern New England states, has a population of about 800,000. We traveled in Bhutan for about a week and a half in November, a couple of years prior to COVID. We were there with Strabo photography tours. Bhutan opened in 1974 to 287 foreign travelers as a high-value, low-impact destination. About 316,000 visited Bhutan in 2019. 75% of the visitors were from the Indian subcontinent and only about 3% from the US and Canada. Story has it that Bhutan's 4th king asked the National Geographic for advice for tourism policy. And to avoid the young hippie backpacker culture that was common in Thailand, they decided a high-value, low-impact approach was adopted. Note the slide on the left, note the text on the left of the slide talking about their all-inclusive travel package. The prices haven't changed too much. COVID interrupted a bit of that, and it's about the same price now as it was back when we did it almost 10 years ago. I know and I can recommend a very dependable English-speaking guide if you're looking for one. We flew in from Bangkok on the national airline on the king's fourth king's birthday. And they gave us gifts and snacks. His very large personal birthday cake was belted into the seat behind us. It was coming from Bangkok. The approach to Paro is one of the most difficult in the world. It banks along the snaking Paro River between steep cliff walls. The approach is manual, visual, daylight, no snow and ice on the tarmac. It's a thrill. And the runway is just long enough for the small planes from the Druk Airlines to land there. The pilot announced, be calm, we bank a lot. It's an adventurous approach that I've done many times. He was correct. It was an exciting and scenic up valley ride. Some of the scenery near Paro reminded me of the American Southwest. The architecture didn't, but the scenery did. Bhutan's climate is subtropical on the lowland border with India. It's temperate in the highlands where we did our travel, and it's alpine in the high mountains that border Tibet. Typical alpine scenery, subalpine, deep valleys and mountains cover up some 98% of the country. Entrance here to the old bridge that was the prime path before the road at the head of this valley was completed. This is our guide Pema. Traditional garment here is he wears a go, long socks. They do have traditional shoes, but he's not wearing those here. He's wearing just leather shoes. Walking over this swaying bridge over the river to the other side. Here he's explaining some of the Buddhist art to us. And I have to admit, it's escaped a lot of me. Heading back, got to go back to that on the other side. This lady was not happy with the swaying bridge, but she made it. 1999, the ban on the internet and TV was lifted in Bhutan. In 2015, the dial-up quality was what we had for internet. Bhutan is a constitutional monarchy. 2006, the fourth king abdicated in favor of his son. His son, the fifth king, was actually educated in Massachusetts at Phillips Andover Academy and at Cushing Academy, and then at Wheaton College, before going on to Oxford in England for advanced degree in diplomacy. This woman's wearing a kira, same kind of fabric as a go. It goes all the way down to the ankles. Here they're spinning prayer wheels. Prayer wheels are spun clockwise to send prayers skyward. There's the fifth king, fourth king on the billboard overlooking the concert that's celebrating his 60th birth anniversary. Crowd was, it was crowded, really packed into this particular venue. It was standing room only. We were kind of on the edge of the crowd, standing behind a few of the monks. The music was rock music, which was surprising. These are some performers. Notice they're all wearing goes and long socks. And they're rocking on here. On stage, they have this stage fog. It was really a lively concert. Some spectators here. I don't know if he's filming it or what, but the young one seems interested. This young lady was performing on the side, having a good time. She dressed up for the concert. This is not the birthday cake that was strapped in behind us on the plane. This was baked in Paro for distribution to people in the crowd. After the concert, kind of a Bhutanese pasajata, walking up to a lakang or a temple way up on the hill. Western and Bhutanese dress coexist. Goes and traditional dress is required for official and visits to temples. Monks had another kind of traditional dress. Oops, went too fast. I'm not quite sure about the slightly different colors of the shawls that they wore. May have just been the dye that was used, but I don't think they're different in meaning. Some others are. And the kids all over the place. They don't tend to wear traditional clothing when they're out playing. seemed to be having a good time after the concert. There's some older kids watching crowds go by. Here's a mother and a son in traditional dress. We were the tourist attraction when we were there. And that particular year in 2015, only 7,200 Americans and Canadians visited the country. 2019, it's about 3%. 3% of the visitors are North American. Well, the party's rolling on here in Paro, actually Thimphu, not Paro, coming back from the Lakang up the top of the hill. Next day, begin touring. Dordainma is 169 feet high. It's a gilded bronze Buddhist statue. Construction began in 2006, and it was completed in time for the fourth king's celebration. Couple gilded bodhisattvas looking towards the Himalayas in the background. Stairs lead up to the base of the Dordainma. Inside it's richly decorated. There contains some 125,000 small gilded bronze Buddhas. After a tour of the interior, we're back to the outside. I don't know what the symbolism of this wall art is, but it was very popular, and a lot of people were posing beside it. This lady's not in our group. School of Traditional Arts in Thimphu. This is a kind of a vocational training school for the traditional arts that you see listed there. And they had signs which are pep talk. These are some folks who struggled as students and made their mark. Entrance to a classroom. Leave your shoes outside, by the way. Wood carving is one of the 13 traditional arts. A lot of the boys were doing this. The emphasis on traditional design. So here they're tracing the design onto the wood, and then it is carved out. Traditional designs are what are taught here. We didn't see a lot of creative stuff. Sewing is one of the traditional arts. And the arts did seem to be somewhat gender specific when we were there. Weaving, another one of the arts. Again, pretty much all women doing this work. Making some vibrant patterns here. Next, in a nearby shop, this was a professional weaver. And we see this particular pattern. It's one of the very popular ones in Bhutan. Our guide Pema wore this one quite often. Young child with the mother at the shop. This is the director of our group, photography group. And they make a lot of vibrant female patterns, and it was for sale in the shop. They were pretty interesting. Outside, a national vegetable drying outside the shop. This is in November, so that the harvest is in for those, and so they're drying a lot of them. Let's look at some of the foods that we tended to eat a lot. These are potatoes in a broth. This is a meat dish. Cabbages, steamed vegetables. This is pink rice, which is common in Bhutan. Cabbages, noodles. These are stuffed dumplings, a bit like we might call Peking ravioli or things like that. Quite common in Bhutan and Tibet. This is a plate that would have been delivered and loaded with the foods. Very early morning here in Thimphu. Visit to the National Memorial Chorten. A chorten is a stupa-like design, and it holds religious relics, and sometimes it's in memory of individuals. This one is in memory of the third king. People come and they will circumambulate the Chorten in a clockwise direction, accompanied with prayers, using prayer beads and little prayer wheels. Sometimes people are engaged in quiet conversation with their neighbors or silent prayer beside the Chorten. Okay, we're off. We're off to the east along the only cross-country road. It is, at that time, it was under continual construction for a decade. The roads kind of look like this. It winds along the cliffs, narrow, twisty, no guardrails, terraces up high. Here we're going into Dosholo Pass. La means pass in the Druk language. 108 small Chortens are a memorial to Bhutanese soldiers who died aiding the Indian army and flushing out Assam's separatists who are hiding in Bhutan and threatening India. These Chortens here are actually small structures, not like the big one that we saw in Thimphu. 108 of them on the hill, Himalayas way in the background. This mountain is Masanggang. It's about 21,000 feet high, and it's the dominant mountain on this horizon that we see. Best time to see mountains is in the fall. Spring is the best time for flowers and the wild rhododendrons. This board identifies what mountains are on the horizon in the back. Rhododendron forest is up here in the hill behind the Chortens in the Royal Botanical Garden. Best visited in spring, as I said. This is our 6-passenger van. 4 photographers on the tour, plus the guide and plus the driver. Stop for a mid-morning stop at a restaurant for a snack and a toilet break. Breakfast soup with spinach, potato dumplings, and a bit of mystery meat in the soup. And beyond the restaurant, we're back on the road. I use road in quotation marks because it is really a problem at that time. 100-mile we took that day, took 10 hours to drive it. 1 lane, wait your turn. Sometimes it widens out a little bit. This particular wide spot has a couple restaurants, fast food restaurants for the people traveling it. Crossing over here at Pela. This is the border between Western and Central Bhutan. There's a lot of sale opportunities here. A lot of Gonda prayer flags here. These flags are prayers, and you can hang your own. The 5 colors are symbolic. Buying opportunities here, textiles, rugs, varying kinds of clothing. Further along the road, we passed a handful of ladies who were carrying big piles of brush on their back. I don't know what their weight was, but they didn't seem to be having any trouble walking up the hill. Loads of brush that I think they use to fuel cooking fires in the homes. This is a typical vehicle that we saw a lot here, multi-purpose. You can change out the trailer to farm implements if you need. This is another little local restaurant while the family is waiting outside. Central Market, we're in Trongsa. Trongsa is a big city in Bhutan. Anyway, let's look at the market, because what they sell in the market is always kind of interesting about telling you what the culture is looking at. Vegetables and fruits, potatoes, greens, tubers. There's some vegetables, some limes there, tomatoes, squashes, cabbage, cauliflower, garlic, and always chilies. Some is not so hot, some are very hot. Lines. This is Trungsa Dzong. Dzongs are centers for government and religious activity. Buddhism is the state religion. So religion and government are one and the same here. And they share the same buildings. This is the national sport is archery. So this is a big archery course at the Trungsa Dzong. The first Olympic team in 1984 was made of 3 women and 3 men archers. This archery range here is really a high, modern one. Good shots celebrated by the team and derided by the opponents if they're bad shots. Notice the equipment that they're using here. We're talking about modern carbon fiber bows. Off it goes. High concentration on these things. The target is 3 feet high, and it's 150 yards away. People stand near this thing to announce what the result was. I don't know what the score was at this match. The first 2 kings ruled from here. Wangchuk is the ruling family's name. Here are some workaday folks. These are monks at the Dzong. Looks like they're doing dishes. Here's a local langur monkey that was along the walls here of the Dzong. Cats, very common. Yes, this cat is hunting. Cats provide a very useful function in the countryside and in the cities. This one was very successful. They have a lot of puppies and dogs around too that also provide useful functions. Inside, it's tower. This goes up to the Tower of Trungsa, which there was a museum up on top. A young monk here coming out of the portal. I don't know the significance of this orange robe, but obviously he is not an underling. He must be in some official capacity. These 3 had a phone screen working, although he doesn't look all that interested in it. A line of monks advancing across the religious part of the Dzong courtyard. 3 stop to talk. This one obviously seems to be in charge. And 2 others stopped further back. This fella here was working on some move, and I don't think it's religious, but he was practicing a move. Here's Meg spinning a prayer wheel. In the Dzong, they go again clockwise to send prayers skyward. Okay, road east of Trungsa, not so bad here. Good road, no guardrails, steep fall into the cliff below. And we're on the pleasant road to the clouded summit of Yungtala, just under 12,000 feet here. Almost always in the clouds, but it's definitely worth a stop. Definitely worth a stop at Yotolang. It separates Trungsa and the Bhutan districts in the central district. Vertical prayer flags called lundas, and they're wind flags. Cliff edge. Yeah, tasty lunch. What do we have here? Rice. This is a meat dish. A lot of meat in this one. Buckwheat noodles. Buckwheat noodles are quite common here. Squash, pumpkin. I'm not quite sure. This is a bit like our butternut squash. And potato with a little parsley growing out of it. We're near Jakarta. The first king of Bhutan was born here. This is his residence in 1857, and it was not a fortress like some of them could be. The interior of this one is somewhat neglected. A small school occupies it right now. but there are plans to convert it into a museum for the Longchuck family. Rear entrance. There's a couple chortens outside this entrance. This chorten here has a number of small stupas. These small clay stupas contain Buddhist prayer scripts. And past those three chorten, the road leads into the village. Some ladies here coming back from some shopping at the store, local store. And we are obviously the tourist attraction. Bhutanese kids love posing. And outside, more drying chili. Pretty every place we had, we saw a lot of these red chilies. And then right nearby, another local archery range. This range obviously isn't the high-tech range that we saw back at Trunkswood Zone. This is low-tech. These are probably fiberglass bows. They do have wooden ones. He still enthusiastic about the shots. This one I don't think went quite as well. Well, maybe it did. Maybe it did. Older bows, less formal dress. Ground is not as smooth, but the target is still 3 feet high, 150 yards away. These are wind flags to let you know when you should shoot. A road sign here in front of these Lungda flags, prayer flags. These are white ones. I think this means 15 kilometers to Jakarta. Will be based along the river in this valley, in the near valley here for 3 days. Jakarta is a busy two-street town, kind of shaped of a T. So this particular street is more of a business, small stores. The top part of the T is restaurants and hotels. The shopkeeper and her baby. This is the Jakarta Zone. This was built in the 7th century when Tibet was highly influential in the region. It's a splendid zone. Very, very pretty. Probably the largest one in the country, in addition to being very nice. Large prayer wheel. Photographers here photographing it, and our guide Pema is spinning it, again clockwise. These shawls the gentlemen have to wear when they're inside the zones, in addition to the formal gold. Whoops, we're photobombed here by a resident monk. The residential section of the zone, these are where the monks will live. Quiet, private back door to this building leads out to some other buildings. It's part of the zone buildings. Now we're at Jampi Lengkang. Lengkang means temple. And this is in Jakarta, in the Bhutan district. This was built also in the 17th century by a Tibetan king. Here, there's a purposeful gathering of elderly here at the temple. Note in the left quarter here, this man with a paper. He's actually having his eyes tested. The lady in green here, our photo leader, she was doing a project to distribute reading glasses to elders with poor eyesight. I think this was might have been sponsored by the Lions Club or the Kiwanis. I'm not sure. I don't know. From Texas, where she was from. These are participants, and there's Pema. So this lady's just got some glasses, so she's getting her photograph taken, and all photographs that you take were shared with the person who's photographed. They gave out 18 sets of glasses, reading glasses, 1 and 2 power glasses to these older folk. It was great fun, great fun. It really was an interesting time there. Everyone was enjoying the gathering and the new glasses and the tourists, and even those who didn't get glasses, we photographed and shared photographs with 3 generations. This little one has weepy eyes. I hope that is simply because of the wind. Whoops, jumped too fast. More posing by some of the ladies. Who's the alpha female here? Who's the alpha? Hands, prayer beads, prayer wheel. The Chikar region is also typically known as Little Switzerland by travelers and also by the tourist industry. These are manda flag, prayer flags with printed prayers, 108 of them in bunches on the ridge, always in view of the river. Hillside farms. Some of the farming in this region is more subsistence than commercial. Roadside shrine with small prayer stupas. We arrive at Ura. This is the furthest east of our tour. We did not go to eastern Bhutan. It's a quiet rural village, somewhat off the beaten path. A lot of puppies here, a lot of dogs and friendly puppies. Rural folk. This one's hitching a ride on, I think she's probably, I don't know if she's the grandmother or the mother. A lot of friendly dogs, puppies here. This is our driver, Sheeran. He's a tourist attraction out here as well. He likes puppies. These young kids were our accompanists during the visit. 4 boys. I think this one with the striped shirt might have been the leader. Certainly was more prominent. Very curious. Meg and my wife Meg and the tour director Meg showed them how to make origami balls and rabbits, and then you blow them up, and they thought that was really quite interesting. So they learned how to blow up balls. Quite fun, quite fun. Even the crows thought it was cool. A lot of building taking place in this village, so it's growing. Big timbers that they worked with, really big timbers, big beams, and the power equipment that I saw tended to be chainsaws. This guy was quite good with it, quite accurate in how he worked it. Loading cement or clay that's going to be used in the building on a backboard here. And then the timbers, they're carried up into the construction project up here. Is the clay that's being used, timbers being carried. Further along the way, there are here 5 skeptical girls. They didn't follow us. The boys were the ones who followed us. Meg coming down the stairs. This is the kind of house that was being built. And by the way, this is the first time we noticed the phallic symbols that we told were common here, but this is the first house we saw them. 2 girls playing outside the house. Phallic symbol here probably indicated there was a new baby there. Farm buildings. The farming community. Like I said, farming. There's that vehicle again. You can switch it out for farm implements or trailers. Made a loud throbbing noise when it came down the trail. We're leaving in our van. Here's the striped shirt boy accompanying us everywhere. You kind of, as a visitor, you kind of wonder what kind of impact you have in a place like this from far away, visiting for a short time and then leaving. Wonder what he's thinking. We're on our way. More flags on the horizon. These flags, these are staffs that would have been used for those kind of flags as we drive across the countryside. Our small photographic group was permitted to attend and photograph the monks' evening prayers after dinner at this private monastery. This is not a zone, it's a private monastery. The monks are having dinner outside, and I did feel like I was a little bit like I was an intruder in this, even though we were invited to photograph. And while they did their normal evening candlelight prayer service, monks looked to be between 6 years old and 18 years old, I would say. They chanted and read Buddhist sutras. Some were more attentive than others, I think. But generally speaking, it was really, really quite moving. The older kids, certainly the ones who could read, really did do this. We photographed silently and as unobtrusively as possible. A young monk. Then back to reality, back to Jakar by night. This looked like it's Las Vegas. It really is not. It's a quiet, middle of nowhere place. Oh, we're on our way to heading back over Yungtola Pass. No clouds in this day. A couple of horses going by over the other side and back onto the lateral road. This is almost a decade ago. I understand construction is more complete now, not as bad as it was when we were there. Slow cattle and yaks. If they fall off, they'll probably be eaten. Generally speaking, cattle and yaks are for dairy, not for meat. Very slow. Much of the construction work is from Japan. Oh, a little bit of prayer flag blowing in the wind. We hung our flags here. They have prayers printed on them, and as they flap and blow away, the threads go to the sky carrying prayers. More prayer stupas in these little sections along the road. Mountains across the isolated valley. That's the road that we'll be eventually traveling. And then noon stop in Trongsa. Back in Trongsa. Yeah, there's a local board game that they're playing outside the store. But interesting, this apparent swastika is actually an ancient Hindu symbol, and it stands for the sun and purity and prosperity. In the 20th century, it was misappropriated by the Nazis, slightly rotated and became their symbol. Nearby store, funky yak cheese, hard, somewhat chalky, kind of a funky taste. Some drying chilies and mushrooms outside the store. And then we're back on the road past Trongsa. Yeah, that road was an experience. Long wait in this wide part of the road. A lot of work here. we had to wait for a semi-official convoy. They had the right of way, obviously orchestrated, decorated they are. This has got the wheel on the this side, and they have race numbers on it. This car had the wheel on the other side. And the passenger gave us a friendly wave as they passed on by. And the last vehicle in the line, again with a race car number. Oh, very interesting. Anyway, while we waited, we finally get to Pujika Valley, Black Cranes Sanctuary. We saw very few black cranes, certainly very few on the ground. We did see 4 in the sky coming in one night as we were up at sunset. Sundown, we're into the purple hour now. Next day, a lot of good productive agricultural land here. Behind us, there was a perpetual prayer wheel. It was turned by hydropower. On the roadside, you had to be real careful on the roadside. These trucks carry heavy loads. I love the eye above the headlights. Be careful with these trucks. They are heavy, big. And beside the road, some agriculture taking place. These folks were dealing, I think, pretty much with purple turnip, looked like was in this field. This agriculture helps feed the country. Nearby, Wangdi Zong. This has a small school in it, not as interesting as, not as big as some of the others. A lot of young novices in this school. Novices would start coming to school in like equivalent to primary school. They also had some teachers of the 13 arts and were willing to sell some of the sculptures. The traditional painting. This is a common motif, and I don't know the symbolism of this Buddhist motif. It's not a rich school. Not a rich school at all. Shoes outside. Can't wear shoes indoors. Now we're back on the main road. This is a bus stop. Waiting to pick people up to take them on their way. Views of receding ridges. The road that we're going to be taking down here is the lower left. When it's wet, up close and gritty on the wet part of the road, we had to wait for this pickup truck to go by beside this tiny waterfall while we waited our turn to continue on the roadway. Eventually we get to Punaka Valley. This is a lovely agricultural valley, terrace fields here for rice. It's a Buddhist college for nuns in this location as well. And the college looks kind of like a stupa. Shoes are left outside. You go upstairs to the main building. Those are our shoes. There's a nun here studying. Got cute pink socks. Did the eyeglass project here, and as well as in a lot of other places. These are younger folks, so they really didn't need the glasses as much as others. But we were welcomed by the head of the school, the college. Great time, great time. Some people did get glasses. And if you got your glasses taken, then the leader took your photograph and shared it with you. But we, as photographers, we would share the photographs that we showed. Meg in particular was showing here these nuns, their photographs, and they really appreciated seeing themselves in these photographs. The Punaka Zong nearby is one of Bhutan's most beautiful zongs. It commands the valley at the confluence of the Mother and the Father rivers. the history of this is quite important to the Bhutanese. Drawbridge across the Mochu. Mochu is the Mother River. And on the Mother River banks, some of the monks are doing their laundry, washing and drying their laundry. Inside the zone is the main plaza inside the zone. Monks inside here, and all of the people aren't monks. They have to wear proper garment, and men wear shawls. People love having their photograph taken and shared. Again, once again, I'm the tourist attraction. Outside the zone, there's a road sign. Eager to last, then why fast? This small town nearby, Punakha itself, Zong doesn't have a village. This is the nearby one. Here they're unloading from those big trucks, unloading 50 kilos of rice in a bag. At work at the store, this young lady's doing sewing, one of the traditional arts. Some tourists here. They were German speakers looking at the display, vegetables, and there are also some ladles and darts. Darts are popular. If you're not doing archery, you're doing the equivalent of lawn darts. Across the fields we go. We'll go into Chimi Lakang. Again, Lakang is a temple. This Chimi Lakang is an important one. In the field on the way up, women winnowing grain. I believe this is in a rice field. And look at these, there's a little rice stalks after harvest. Some 3 kids having lunch. I'm not sure he was happy that he was being photographed. School's out. Oh yeah, here we are. Tourist attractions again. Young folks saw us there coming down the track. We saw one house with phallic symbols in Ura village, and this village makes it a tourist industry, not just for tourists, but also for Bhutanese who are visiting Chimilakang. The explanation sign was in English. I didn't see one in any other language. I think the Bhutanese know what it's all about. The divine madman. This is about childless women and young mothers will come here with their babies for blessings. The divine madman violated an awful lot of the guidelines for what traditional Buddhists would do. Yeah, the divine madman. Google it. He's interesting. 2 monks outside Chimilakang, one riding atop the other. Shaded Gondar prayer flags. Again, the fabric flying off to the skies. And in 2015 or so, Michael Jackson was still a hero there. Michael Jackson dancing, break dancing, great pastime. Posing, universally popular in Bhutan. Tire rolling down in the village. They didn't have a hoop, but they did have a tire. It was kind of fun. Okay, back over the roads. Back over the roads we go. Back towards Paro. A little crowded on this part of the road, no surprise. Finally, we get to Dushala and the 100 Chortens. About 75% of the visitors to Bhutan are subcontinent visitors. Paro is the most, always stop for tourists. The valley is beautiful. The airport is here with exciting approach and departure. Many treks towards the Himalayas on the Tibetan border begin here. Again, notice the photo here. This is the 5th king, the present king. We're in the Paro Zong. This is our guide, Pema. doing a model walk for the photographers. This is for me, a most impressive zong in Bhutan. Very, very illustrated. I can't begin to explain the symbolism of these Buddhist drawings and paintings, but it was a really impressive place. Buddhism dates back to about the 8th century. Before that, it was just Hindu. Beautiful zone. Here again is that elephant and some others. I have to look up and see what that symbolism means, but it's a beautiful zone. This is our goal to end the hike to Taksangamba. This is the tiger's nest. It's way up here on the mountain, 3,000 feet above the valley. This is a sign that was at the trailhead, put up by His Majesty the King. Well, I don't know if he put it up, but 27 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning of our trailhead ascent. We started at 8,500 feet. Frost on the leaves. We had all our layers of clothing on us, and we shed them as the day warmed up to the upper 60s. And as we generated our own heat as we climbed well-trod paths all the way up down. There's only really one trail that goes up the main route. Meg's climbing, trekking poles, wide route. There I am making the turn up a high. If I'm in a photograph, Meg took it. You can hire a mule ride, take you halfway up if you like. But mules packing stuff down, and the mules might carry as much as 150 pounds, 200 pounds normally. Big prayer wheel about halfway up. Spin it, send your prayers skyward, hang your Gunda flags. We're at a halfway cafeteria, and folks who don't go all the way will stop here. This is our destination. Our hiking group at the only real viewpoint on the trail, way up. Pema was sick, so we had another fella join us this day, Ugden. Everyone takes monastery pictures from this spot. If you've ever seen a picture of Bhutan, this is where it was taken. Special entry permit must be granted to the guide before the climbing begins. All gear, phones, cameras, packs, everything must be left down here at the Army checkpoint post by the red door. You can only go in here if you're on the hiking permit. And then you're free to walk through the Gomba, attend services if you like. Very, very interesting. A lot of history related to this particular place. And the banishing of spirits and demons. Very important in this history of this and the mythological stories of this. Amazing experience being there. Coming back down, a flower growing on the trail, thin ground. This is our driver, Shearing, our main guide, Pema. This is our hiking guide, Ugin. This is at our farewell evening dinner. We had some entertainment after dinner. This is going to be Bhutanese entertainment, folk music. Notice the dress. These are the traditional male boots. Women singing and dancing. 5 women, and they were joined by, men singing and dancing. This is parts of a religious festival called Teshus. And these are cham dances. This is part of the Teshu festivals that relate to the 8th and 9th century introduction of Buddhism into the region by Tibetan monks. My videos back then were very short. Several kinds of cham dances. This is the I think these are the masked Chang. This one reminded me very much of Druk, the Druk. Oh, thank you for Friends of the Library for sponsoring us, and thank you all for tuning in and traveling to Bhutan with me. Robert, I can take any questions that folks might have right now.
All right, so folks, let's give Jack a big virtual round of applause. We've hit 8 o'clock right on time. We will take approximately 10-15 minutes of questions. I'm going to address the questions in the Q&A first. So if you have any questions, get them into the Q&A, and then if we have time, I will look in the chat. An anonymous attendee asks, were you able to go into the Dizong? I might be mispronouncing that. When we were there in 1993, it was forbidden for foreigners.
Your itinerary is determined before you get there as part of your all-inclusive tour. So the zongs we went to, I did mention in the thing. So no, I'm not sure we went to that one.
Right. Nancy says, absolutely fantastic photos. Kudos to you. Anita asks, how much education do the children of Bhutan get? Is it required education, compulsory?
Honestly, I don't know too much about the education system. As photographers, we were focusing on other things rather than the culture and the education part. Young folks males would go to the zongs to be educated, or the monasteries, and they typically began like about 6 years old. I honestly don't know about the young girls. The older girls certainly could go to nunnery colleges, but they would be Buddhist nuns. But I don't have a good answer to the education system for Bhutan.
This might be a tougher question. The healthcare system. Can you speak to any of the medical care that Bhutan residents receive?
I cannot.
That's
I
okay.
know that our guide Pema, he was injured once at an archery thing. I guess he caught an arrow in the cheek, which was, oh, yeah. So he had some first aid in Bhutan, but then he went to India to get taken care of down in Calcutta. So I think it's an old kingdom, and it's trying to work its way into modern times.
An anonymous attendee asks, was basketball still the second national sport?
I would expect that's probably true. We didn't focus on that. Again, the itinerary is determined before you get there, and so we were focusing on the archery rather than on other sports.
Joanne would like to know, what kind of camera or lens did you use to take your photos?
I was using at that time a DSLR Canon with a big telephoto lens. It was heavy. I've since switched to a Sony mirrorless camera that's much lighter. The guide that we had was very much interested in teaching iPhone photography. So she was doing some of that. And so I did not have an iPhone or a camera phone at that time. So I didn't participate in that, although some folks had a tablet and they used that. So yeah, a DSLR camera, a good camera.
Clarification for Tina, were these photos taken from your 2015 trip or 2019 or both?
2015, I was only there once. So
Okay.
when I refer to the tourism, I was looking at information that came out of Wikipedia as to how many people go there. Mostly the people there are Canadian. 3% of the visitors are North Americans. 75% are South Asian continent.
Karen asks, what is the best time of the year? What is the best month to go to Bhutan?
If you're looking to see scenery and on far distances, less clouds, less hazy, then you want to do the fall. If you're looking to see plants like rhododendrons and wildflowers and growth like that, then you're probably talking about the spring.
John asks, what were your hotel accommodations like?
I would say they're like 3-star. As part of these all-inclusive packages, I think they look to have the general tourism be 3-star. You can pay more than the standard fee and get higher level accommodations. I don't know what the accommodations are like if you're trekking.
Daryl asks, how prevalent is English spoken?
We had a guide who spoke English. He learned English in India. I might have studied a bit in England too. But the guides that you hire have to have the language that you specify, and you have to be fluent in it. We didn't do a lot of touring away from the group. So the itinerary takes you where you're going to go. You're accompanied where you're going to go. The guide and the driver take care of you. So you're not really wandering around free. If you're South Asian, you might be permitted to do that. But as North Americans, we were with the guide all the time.
I'm going to lump three questions together here. An anonymous attendee asks, why are the Buddhist monks so young? Another anonymous attendee asks, how are the boys selected for the monastery and the girls selected to become nuns? And Patty asks, you mentioned some monks were 6 years old. Do you know how the children are chosen to become monks?
I think the family chooses to send them to the school. I don't know if there's public schools as we understand it. It seemed to me whenever we were seeing school situations, they were related to monasteries. So it's the education I don't have a good answer for. How are they chosen? I think families probably chose to send the kids to the school. I don't know how much it cost them, and I really don't have a good answer for the education system and the general level of education in the population.
All right, I'm going to combine four questions. Karen asks, how long did it take to hike up to Tiger's Nest? Was it a difficult hike? Rose asks, how did you find climbing at high altitude? Let's see here. An anonymous attendee asks, when and how, let me skip that one actually for now, sorry. Donnie asks approximately, what was the average altitude of the places you went? Were you bothered by the altitude? And Stephen asks, was altitude an issue during your trip?
We understood that we would be at altitude. So if I recall correctly, we did bring some high altitude medicine. And we took that prior to hiking for sure. Generally speaking, we weren't doing a lot of hiking. So you really, while you knew you were at altitude, it's like being up in high parts of the Rocky Mountains. You could get out of breath. When we hiked up to Taksongombe, the hike up took about 2 hours. And I'm going to say I was out of breath the entire way. We started at 8,500 feet, which was the highest I'd ever really hiked. Although I have hiked in Machu Picchu. And again, we had altitude sickness medicine to protect us. And you do get out of breath. You really do labor. And you feel slow and hard breathing. So if you have real breathing problems, you don't want to be trying to hike up to Taksongombe.
I'm going to combine two questions. DJ asks, do the young people stay or leave the country for education and business careers? And DJ also asks, besides farming, what does the average person do and what is the average income?
It seemed like, first of all, for education, it seemed like if you could and you wanted to get higher education, you would leave the country. India was a common destination. If you're looking to do English, you might even go to England. The king was educated in the United States, the third king, his high school education. So he certainly would have gone to Buddhist schools in the country, but his high school education was, again, with Phillips Andover, Cushing. College was at Wheaton College, where he met his, I believe he met his wife there. They both went to Oxford University for final years of university postgraduate education. But I honestly don't have a good answer for education. I really am sorry about that.
Anonymous attendee, well, Kathy asks, how does one go about booking a trip like this? And an anonymous attendee wants to know if that $200 a day tourism fee that I think you referenced, is that negotiable?
A lot of tour companies will offer programs. And interestingly enough, they're all pretty much the same price, because that when we were there, $250 a day was the base fee. And I think it's probably not much different now. During COVID, they lost a lot of tourism. And so they've reintroduced it, trying to attract people back, and it's still the same kind of price. $100 of that $250 is your daily visa. So it's $250 a day. And that daily fee includes your visa. It includes your driver, vehicle, guide. It includes your 3-star hotel. It includes your food. It includes all the entrances that may be charged to anybody. So it's an all-inclusive fee for $250. If you want to raise your level of luxury, if you will, you can do that, and you have to negotiate with the tour company for that. National Geographic has tours there. I think I've seen a tour from Road Scholar go there, maybe Overseas Adventure Travel. We were with a photography group called Strabo. And again, it didn't matter who you were with, 250, and you got what I said, you got all inclusive, same, didn't matter who your vendor was.
An anonymous attendee asks, when and how was that monastery on the cliff built?
Whoa, when and how? They have to carry everything up. Everything was carried up. So pack mules would take it as high as that they could go, and then people would carry it the rest of the trailway. There might have been some use of helicopters, but mostly it was handwork. I think in the 1990s, I think there was a fire there and destroyed much of the Gomba. And because of that, and then they had to reconstruct it. And there, I think they did have some helicopter help. Because of that, that's why the Army checkpoint is there now, to be sure that no problems come from anybody bringing anything in. But it took a long time. And the history of that is really quite interesting, because supposedly the founder of that, who was up there, flew in, and this is back in the 6th century, maybe 7th century, and banished demons that were threatening the village. And so anyway, yeah, it's a historical thing. My wife has something for me. The cave was built, she says it was built in 1692, and formerly was built as a monastery.
It was formally built in 1692. It was started
9th
as a
century.
meditation cave.
The meditation cave and the caves up there were built in the 9th century, and that relates back to Buddhism coming in from Tibet.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Meg. So we've got a couple more minutes. I'm going to just run through some comments, Jack, and then we'll wrap it up. Donnie says, thank you very much for an interesting and informative presentation. I loved your photographs. Marigold says, I have no question, but beautiful photos. Thanks for sharing. Linda says, I went to Bhutan in 2016. We visited elementary schools, which were attended by both girls and boys, all wearing traditional dress.
Yeah.
We were told that children begin learning English their first year in school.
Good.
Frank says, bravo. Let's see, Stephen says, thank you. Very interesting, a learning experience. Diana says, many thanks for a fascinating talk. I hope to travel there one day. Barbara says, wonderful travel tour, incredible experience. Judy says, great pictures in the presentation. Food looked delicious. Thank you. Carlene says, thank you so much for an interesting talk. Kathy says, this was really interesting. I loved your photos. Jaya says, thank you. Alex asks, what language is spoken in Bhutan? I only see signs in English.
Rook is the spoken language. And again, English is a strong second language. Thank you, by the way, for that information about the education. It did seem like all those people that we were in contact with did speak English. But again, we were talking to people on the tour, related to the tour.
Diane says, this was spectacular. Thank you. Nancy says, thanks for sharing your wonderful experience. And an anonymous attendee says, wonderful program, pictures, and commentary. So, Jack, do you have any last words for the audience before we wrap it up?
Thank you very much for all attending, folks. Bhutan is definitely a trip of a lifetime. It is a unique experience. Hard to get there, but once you're there, it's absolutely amazing. Thank you all for tuning in, and Robert, thank you. And we'll see you again.
Absolutely. So we will see Jack. I'm going to make you all wait. We're going to see Jack on Wednesday, May 1st. So we're going to have to wait almost 3 months. But Jack will be talking about his safari in Tanzania. I'll get that right. That's Wednesday, May 1st, 7 o'clock. Info in the chat. For those watching live, look for an email from me tomorrow with a link to the feedback survey, link to the recording, information about some other upcoming virtual programs, including some armchair travel presentations. Again, want to thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring. Also want to thank the Chelmsford Library and Groton Library for helping spread the word about tonight's program. So thank you all so much, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their evening. Thanks again, Jack.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Enjoy Sicily. Bye-bye.
Thank you.